Hello, and welcome back to our third episode of Just Deal With It. Today, we're going to speak about red flags. Sinead, take it away.
OMG, this is such an amazing topic. And I probably should have worn my red glasses for this one. But, oh, God. Okay, so we talked about dating apps, dating life, early dating, and all that. But we talked about how, you get attached, especially as women. And unfortunately, we get attached when there were red flags the whole way. You're usually going to see a red flag within 3 months. Now, unfortunately, you're usually a bit attached at that point. You really, within the first month, will see red flags that you don't want to recognize and make excuses for. I have a list. I'm writing a book because of my last relationship. I thought to myself, you know what? The flags were there. They were all over the place. The universe was screaming at me. It was like sirens, but I didn't want to listen to that. And so I was inspired by that breakup to write a book on recognizing red flags. Too often we let our emotions, our excuses, guys, maybe girls will sit there and go, no, 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 this and that, and make excuses over that, right? And so I am hoping that this book that I'm writing and this podcast just kind of gives a little bit of foresight for you so that you don't ignore those red flags. You don't let excuses create emotionally an attachment and then heartbreak. So I'll list some of the red flags and we can go into it as you want. And Tamara, you add in whatever you know, because I know that you have had a very interesting dating life in the past. So it'll be fun to hear yours.
So, before we begin, shall we start with red flags that you see right away and then into the relationship? Or how do you want to structure this? Do you want to start talking about red flags when you just start communicating with somebody versus the red flags you see later on once you're actually in a relationship?
I mean, 3 months isn't really that far into it, right? Even like 1 month isn't that
Right, but
far into
that's
it.
already like I've picked you, right?
True,
Like,
true. I don't know. I mean, we can go in any way. I mean, if we start with the early beginning ones, again, these are really hard because when you first meet someone, as we talked in our previous podcast, they may be nervous. They may, be presenting themselves in a different way. And so I don't know. I usually say like give it at least a month to look at these flags. And so what would be an early? Well, the first one I have to tell you, love bombing. OMG, love
I
bombing.
do have to say something. You are very good to them if you're giving them a month. I used to give them 2 days.
But you can't really get to know someone in that time. I mean, to know
But
if it's genuine
you
or
know what?
not what they're doing.
Here's the thing. When you start communicating with somebody, and if you have an open line and transparency, and they feel comfortable enough, they're going to tell you everything you need to know in the first, I'm going to say 2 days, 48 hours,
Okay,
right?
that is a good point because one of my red flags is communication. If you ask a guy, again, the ex-boyfriend, I kept asking, he's separated, not divorced. We're going through the process. And he was already talking about marriage. And okay, this is like weeks 1 and 2. Okay. Already talking about marriage and being Catholic. I was like, well, you and I wouldn't be able to get married in the Catholic Church. It's like, no, I'll get it annulled and all that. That's, in that moment, I was like, is, is this love bombing? Or is this a flag? Maybe it's me because I was like, afraid to
Yeah.
get hurt. These are the things. So you're right. Communication, if you can talk to a guy and you can ask him anything, green flag. Really huge green flag. If you ask questions like, oh, I don't know. I mean, my ex did not want to talk about his divorce or a relationship in that sense at all. And that should have been a huge red flag for me. So yeah, you're right that you can't, but not everyone's always that comfortable, and I don't blame people to not want to talk about such personal things early on in the first two
But
days.
then they will say to you, I don't feel comfortable yet. I'd like to get to know you. I do want to tell you, but I want to take some time to get to know you because before you know my my prior life, I want you to know me as a person, right? If the person is transparent with you and saying to you, I don't have an issue telling you this stuff, but I would feel more comfortable telling you this stuff when I actually see that this is going somewhere and this is, unless
See,
it's some
that's still a red flag for me.
right, but it's a red flag if it's a situation where the guy is still living with his wife in the same house.
No, in my case, he wasn't living with his wife.
In your case, it was different though. Here's the thing. Remember, he's avoidant. The problem with him is that he didn't know he was avoidant.
Yeah.
He actually thought he wanted to do this. He actually believed it fully that he wanted to
But how
do this.
many avoidants actually know that they're avoidant? Most
A lot of
avoidants.
people, nobody knows. Nobody.
Exactly.
That's the
Exactly.
thing. Because we're therapists, we know this terminology. We've studied this. We know what certain reactions merit. Like we know what it means.
Yeah.
But a person who is going to therapy and should probably be told by the therapist what's going on. But like regardless, um, they haven't gotten that far because he's not allowing it with her either.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So just because we know who he is and what his attachment style is doesn't mean he knows.
Yeah, but now if so here this goes into another flag. So if you bring
Hmm.
that up, sounds like
Yeah.
you don't really want to, it's kind I'm hoping that our listeners end up really learning about these attachment styles and ask your dates. Sounds like you're kind of avoiding this.
Post a link to the attachment style test for you guys
Yes,
in our
yes.
description because
Actually,
I
I
think it's
think that
important.
everyone that's dating should take that test so you know your attachment style and you can start understanding because if you understand people's attachment styles, dating is going to be so much easier. Weeding them out is going to be so much easier. So I think that's a great idea, Tamara. Thank you
Okay,
for
cool.
sharing that.
So let's go back into red
Yes.
flags.
So listen, separated, not divorced, huge red flag. I'm sorry, but the guy I was I'm dating, and so I saw someone for a few times, and literally first date, first time meeting him, he says, "Well," because I asked him, I'm like, "Do your kids know
Oh
you're
yeah.
dating?"
Well,
Well, no, no. I mean, he was upfront, and I respect him for this. But I said, "Do your kids know that you're dating?" He goes, "Well, I mean, I think," and I was like, and that right there, I was like. And he goes, "Well, technically, I'm separated, not divorced." And I immediately said, "Okay, so you should know that's a huge red flag for me." And he's like, "Oh." I said, "That doesn't mean I'm not going to give you a chance because you sound more upfront than my ex and you sound more well rounded. But being that I've gone through this already before, I'm just going to have a mental note of that, right?" So, separated, not divorced, I really just say step away from that for now. Listen, you could always say, "I really like you, but when you're divorced and you can show me those papers, come back. Let's see if we connect." But that to me, it's happened to me a couple times. Red flag. Oof, toxic exes, manipulative children. And I know manipulative children, people are going to like jaw drop or what have you, but toxic exes, those that are still controlling your potential man, they will use their children to manipulate your emotions. So if you are you're hearing about, your early dating, even into the dating, ask about the ex. What's your ex like? How was the divorce? You're going to get a lot from that. What are your children like? Do they know that you're dating? How do they feel about you dating? That is so crucially important because that is, I truly believe, what ended my last relationship.
Mhm.
So, and again, I saw the red flags. I saw them coming on. If the kids don't like you or don't want to meet you, it's not going to be easy if that man is not a true man. Now, green flag. If a man can tell his children his ex, I'm sorry, put boundaries. Listen, I like this person, and you tell your children, listen, you may not like that I'm dating, you may not like this person, but I love this person, I like this person, I'm going to give it a try. I respect your opinion, but I'm your parent and you don't get to make my opinion. Green flag. If he is willing to prioritize you and understand that that's one life or another, but if you see that he's jumping over hoops and changing plans and stuff for the ex or the kids, red flag. Inconsistent communication. What does that look like? Is he giving you mixed signals? Um, you can, gaslighting is going to come in a little bit later on, but is he saying one thing and you're hearing it and then you repeat it and he's like, no, I didn't say that. Um, that's a big red flag. Or, if he's telling you something and you question about it later and you go, well, wait, but I thought you said this. Oh, no, 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 this is what I meant. Just keep an eye on that. Um, Surface level conversations is a huge one. And this you can get early on, to your point. What do they want to talk about? Are they willing to talk about their last relationship and what that was like and, why it ended? Are they willing to talk about deeper personal things? Or are they dismissing it? Um, are they sweeping it under the rug? Did they, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. And then you repeat it again. I was like, yeah, I really don't want to talk about that right now. Red flag. Last minute plans. This is really, usually in the younger people. I would hope not the older, but the guy, girl's messaging you at, 10 o'clock at night. Hey, you want to get together? Or, hey, my plan just fell through. Can you get together tomorrow? Just say no. If it's every once in a while that happens, fine. But if you're seeing a pattern, walk. He doesn't want anything serious. Or to your point, he may actually be married. And so, do you have anything? I have more, but do you have anything so far that you want to?
I do. Some of the red flags I would say is on a first date, if the guy starts bashing his ex and starts saying negative things about his ex-wife or his ex-girlfriend or his ex-relationship, huge red flag. Run. Don't walk. Run. Because that means this person, because let's be honest here, right? When a relationship doesn't work, it's both parties usually. It's
Absolutely.
not just one. It's both parties. So this person is not acknowledging who he was in that relationship, and he didn't learn the lessons in that relationship that were sent to him. Because I believe every person that enters your life, it's some kind of a lesson.
I see that.
It's some kind of a lesson. And if you come out of a relationship with somebody you have a kid with, right? For example, and all you have to say is nasty, bad things about this person to a person you just met.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you though,
Yeah.
because I almost want to reverse that because my ex spoke so highly of her, and this woman is a toxic woman.
Right, but Shanae, you also mentioned that your ex was a good person. He was a good man. He's just not ready for a relationship. That doesn't make him a bad human being. He's
No,
not
no,
ready.
no, no.
I
But you're
feel that this is what makes a person an indecent human being. Because when he, it's one thing when you're dating for a long time and the guy's like, listen, I don't want to talk bad about the mother of my children, right? But this is what happened. Okay, you don't have to necessarily bash the person. You make that conclusion as a listening party in that situation, right?
right.
But when the guy goes to you, oh, she was a see you next Tuesday and she ruined my life and she took all of my money and she went and she bought Chanel and she did this and she did that and she is and my daughter now she's dating this other
Okay, so
guy.
I get the point, but I'm
You understand
still
what I'm
going
saying?
to challenge you on this. And now I think you brought up another red flag.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that if a guy, listen, divorces aren't fun.
But we're talking about first date. This is the first date. This is
Right. But I would go so far to say that I would be okay with he may not speak that kindly of, but takes accountability. Listen, there was my part. I did, and that would be a green flag to me. Like, he's not talking the best about this person, but he's like, I could have done things to make things different too. That to me, I would be okay with actually. So that's one side of things. And to the other thing that I was talking about with my ex, I would actually caution the really nice talk. Yes, he's a good person, but I would caution it because I'm like, does this person still have feelings for this person? Because yes, he couldn't see the toxicity. He couldn't, and so that's another side to look at. Like, because I still think that's so. Those are unprocessed. By the way, it's going to be another red flag.
See
One
him
second,
that
I know. Hold on, one second. But those are unprocessed feelings.
yes. Yeah, but so for me, him bashing this woman reflects the fact that he possibly still has feelings for her.
So yeah, that could go two ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right. But for me, the red flag, like, we're not talking about their issues, right? At the end of the day, this is their issue. They're left with this issue, no matter what, whether they're with us or not.
yeah.
For us as their partners to be, for us as the people that they're dating, that they're in this dinner with, right? We're in this situation, we're in this boat together, right?
Yeah.
You want to jump out of that boat if this is what you're hearing. Because the next person he's going to be talking shit about is you.
But again, in defense of these men, I agree with you to a point. In defense, if this person takes accountability of their issue, I would say, okay, listen, you're not. I go so far as to be like, wow, you really did not like this person, you know.
Hmm.
But if they don't take accountability, I agree with you. Run as fast as you can. But if they do take accountability and address
That's
their
different. That's different. But we're
so I
talking
just
about
want to address that, for our listeners because
right.
you more than not you hear people speaking negatively about their ex.
Right, but we're not talking about going into. We're talking about first date, red
Okay.
flag,
Okay.
right? For me, there wouldn't be a second date after something like that because this person literally went on a tangent. Like, he just went in and he never came out. He never surfaced up to talk about, hey, what do you do for a living? For example, like, how do you like to spend your
Right.
time? Um, where
Oh,
do you
I mean
live?
that's a huge red flag if they can't
Right,
continue to
exactly.
date.
This
Sure.
person just went in and just like wouldn't stop talking, and then we to the point where we got into his car. He was driving me home from the date. He was still eating it, like he was still talking about it. He took out his phone, went on her Facebook picture,
Oh
showed me
my gosh! I can see why
her
you're so
current
passionate about this.
boyfriend, showed me her current boyfriend, who I figured was one of my friends. Actually, I didn't even know until he showed me his picture. I was like, oh shit, that's my friend. But okay, whatever. I'm not gonna say that out loud. At that point, I'm like, ooh, this just got so awkward,
Yeah.
you know. So, it just started spinning more wheels. Like, it just got worse and worse and worse as the date went on.
Okay. Well,
I
that
came
that
out,
makes sense there. But
right? I came out and I was just like, okay, red flag, not happening again.
yeah.
Another red flag I would say is when a person insists on picking you up on the first date.
Mm, yeah.
Um,
Wait. But we're in New York City, so do you mean insist pick up like in a car or walking?
like in his car from
Yeah.
your
No.
house,
No.
when it's insisted upon. Like, let's say you
No.
can offer, right? Like, as a you can offer, you could say, hey, if you want, I could grab you, I could scoop you up, and we could go to
But
this
not
place. No
insist.
problem.
Yeah.
I live like, in Midtown or downtown, whatever. It's not an issue for me to pick you up. Um, it's another thing when it's like, where do you live? I want to pick you up.
Yeah.
No, you're
I
not
agree.
taking a cab. No, you're not taking a train. No, I'm first of all, it's controlling behavior. Two, you're probably getting raped that night. Um, three,
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of and and again, that's an alpha male kind of talk, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like that's a big red flag right now. Um,
Well, and you
yeah,
mentioned controlling behavior, so that was actually one of my red flags on my list.
there you go.
Because
Control.
controlling behavior will often go into jealousy,
Yep.
and you normally see narcissism in there.
Yep. Another red flag, I'm going to say from my personal dating experience, is overdoing it on date one. Number one.
Well,
Overdoing it.
that's love bombing. A part of
Well,
it.
I wouldn't call it love bombing. Love bombing is something else.
So what are
Uh
you talking about then?
what am I talking about? I'm talking about coming in dressed in a tuxedo on
This
your
happened
first
to you,
date.
didn't it?
Yes, of course it happened to me.
My God.
Um, so first the person will set a date up, right? I got set up by somebody I personally knew. It was my hairdresser, and she told me, "Oh my God, Tamara, what a nice guy, such a sweetheart, this and that. You really need to meet this guy, amazing guy, blah, 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 blah." I said, "Okay, give him my number, whatever, I'm single." Next thing I know, I get a text message. "Hey, I'm so and so. Let's I want to keep this kind of short," which I liked. He said, I want to keep this kind of short. I do want to have a couple conversations with you, but because I'd prefer to meet you first and then we can see where it goes."
Green
Which was
flag.
perfect. Green
Green.
flag. Green flag. Now, big red flag. He tells me he's taking me to some cafe. I like to ask, where are we going? Of course, because he knows my friends and they okayed him, I thought it was okay to tell him where he could pick me up from, which is, plus I was a lot younger and stupider, so whatever. Um, so I'm like, okay, where are we going? He said it was just this cafe. There's this cafe in Brooklyn where I live, and it's very casual. You wear jeans and sweaters into this place. Like it's nothing. So I'm thinking jeans and sweaters it is. All right. So I come out of my jeans and my sweater. This motherfucker rolls up in a freaking tuxedo
For coffee.
with with 24 long stem red roses. And I felt like I was on The Bachelor. I'm like, what's going on? He goes like, "Hi," gives me the flowers, right? I'm like, this beautiful, don't get me, beautiful gesture. However, let's save it for like date 2, 3, 4, something
Five,
like that.
6, 7, 8, like some
Something
down the
like that,
line.
where you come
Yeah.
in a tuxedo, you're taking me to the opera or
Oh my
something.
gosh.
Like it's a different story. Date number 1, we're going for coffee. Really, bitch? So I come out and I'm like, okay, this is weird. I'm like, where are we going? And he goes, "Oh, we're going to this like really, really expensive restaurant in Brooklyn."
And
And
you're
I'm
in
like,
jeans
okay.
and a sweater.
And I'm in jeans, ripped jeans and a sweater. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I specifically asked you where we were going. I would have dressed like, not like a bum, you know? So I'm like, oh, that's nice. We get to the restaurant. So this is all red flags. To me, this is red flags because it's not considerate. I understand what he's doing, but he's not considering the fact that I'm still part of this. Like
So
he's
the red flag, you would call it consideration.
right, because he's showcasing, he's a show poodle right now. He's showing me what he can do with
Mm.
his little tricks. But I'm here going, you could have told me where we were going. So I could have been felt felt more comfortable being on this date, right? At
Yeah.
least. Plus, it sets a certain tone. Like there's expectations when you go into these kind of things with somebody on a first date. That's weird. Okay? So anyway, we get to this restaurant. He comes in, he knows the whole staff. I'm like, okay. Says hello to everybody, shaking everybody's
So now
hand,
he's showing off. Okay, so that's another
showing
red
off,
flag.
showing off like a crazy. I'm like, this is okay. And the and
Ugh.
the and the waiters are like, "Oh, hi, sir," whatever. So we walk through, and this is a Russian restaurant, and some grandma is like celebrating her 95th birthday there. So you have all these like senior citizens dressed up in like these ball gowns, and here I am walking in as a bum, right? And we get to the front of the restaurant where the stage is, right? Where the show is. So we get and we sit down. So the table is not for two. The table is actually for 4 people. And I'm like, who's coming? He goes like, "Oh, my friends are joining us." Flag number 85 at this point, okay? Red flag.
Seriously.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? And we're like probably in our like late 20s or like early 30s at this happened. And I'm like, okay, this is whatever. So his friends show up, and the first thing that happens is that, like, I'm a people watcher, and I turn around and this couple walks in. So the couple, I'm going to tell you what they look like. They are in their 60s, approximately, I'm going to say.
This is
The
their
man,
friends.
they're his friends. Well, I didn't know they were his friends. I just thought it was the clowns showing up to this restaurant. I don't know what it was. So the guy comes in, typical Russian style, three gold chains, hair over
Oh,
here, the Persian rug. The shirt is opened. He's holding a cigarette. Back then, you could smoke inside of restaurants. Apparently, I don't know. He didn't give a shit. Whatever it was, he's coming in with a cigarette. His wife has little short blonde hair, also in her 60s. You could see she's in her 60s, not a good 60s. Okay,
that's funny.
sleek back, red lipstick drawn like this, little corset situation Madonna thing she has going,
And she's in her.
and little white leather shorts. And they're walking in, and I'm not even thinking. And I'm like, oh, look, the clowns showed up jokingly. And the clowns are going towards our table. And they sit down. He goes, like, Tamara, these are my friends. Okay, so imagine the picture. I'm in my jeans and my sweatshirt or sweater. He's in his tux, and that. This is what our table looks like.
Lovely.
Okay, so flag number 85.
86.
Yeah, 86, whatever. Who are his friends?
His parents.
Right? Like, they're not his parents. They're his
Okay.
friends. He's friends with them.
Oh, they
So
are
I
his friends. Okay.
am like, you are a dude, like, you're in your 30s. Like, why are you hanging out with 60-year-olds?
Right.
No, I mean, no, nothing. Don't
So
get
why
me
was
wrong,
he hanging out with them?
because he doesn't have any other friends.
Red flag number 87.
Yes,
Okay, so that's another thing, their social circle.
exactly. Um, red flag number 88. He starts ordering drinks and he's driving. Starts driving, drinking. I'm thinking we're taking an Uber or a taxi home because there's no way.
Oh, no way. No.
He dragged me into his car and drove me home that night. I thought I was going to die. So, red flag number 88.
Wow.
I got home. Let me tell you, I called this lady and I'm like, what the I said, why would you do that to me? Oh, I thought he was a really nice guy. He's my neighbor. So I was like, all right, I'm sorry. I'm not going out with this guy again.
Yeah, no.
You know,
Well, so that goes into one of my red flags here, disrespect for boundaries.
disrespectful boundaries. But hear this. I'm at her salon getting my hair done a few months later. And she's like, oh, I'm dating a new guy. She probably totally forgot.
Um,
Tried to introduce me to this one. Out comes this dude. And he's like, baby, do you want me to bring you something? And I'm like,
oh my
why
God.
would you try to set him up with all your friends, all your clients, if you were trying to chase this person to be with him? Were you trying to show him that you're way better fit for him, that you like his tuxedo? I don't know. But
Wow. Well, that's a crazy story.
it's a crazy story. But the point is to the story is that these are red flags that you will get on date number one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it happens.
I mean, I think yours are a little more eccentric than on date one, but
Yeah, you know, it's eccentric, but you know what's funny right now with the mental health state of most of these people, because we were on lockdown for so long, because people lost touch with their friends because of political reasons, whatever the case may
right,
be.
right.
People have lost their mind.
Yeah,
So this scenario for the time that it happened might have been eccentric, but right now, this is norm.
that's weird. Let's get into
Go
one of the last ones that I have is so we talked about disrespect for boundaries. So there's two that I want to discuss. The disrespect for boundaries. If you're like on a date and so I was now this guy handled it really well, but I want marriage.
ahead.
And this guy was like, "Well, I just want a long-term relationship." And he said to me, "Well, why do you need marriage?" And I said, "Because I do. That's what I want." And it's okay that you don't want a long-term relationship. But if a guy is constantly trying to convince you to move into his lane of what he wants, that's a red flag. If you say no, it's no to whatever it may be. He can sit there and try to have the discussion, try to convince you a little bit. But as long as, and this guy did, he was like, oh, but why? I'm like, this is what I want. He's like, okay, we're on two different pages. That was like, he handled it really well. And we ended up having a great evening. I did end up saying to him, listen, this isn't going to work out. We want two different things. He handled that like a champ. But, disrespect, what are your boundaries? What are your values? This is a huge one. If a guy is not respecting those from the very beginning, you got to run, because it's not going to get any better. If this is his first impression, like your tuxedo guy, if that's your first impression, what's down the line? Because it only gets worse once they get comfortable.
Sure.
So the
This is
last one what?
this is their good day. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
exactly.
this is what they want you to think they are. So
Yeah,
if this is what in their head they thinking that this is what you want to present as,
yeah,
can you imagine what's actually under that
yeah. Well, so this goes into
tuxedo?
presenting yourself first, right? This one's a huge one for me. I really want to get into a little bit of the love bombing. I'm sure you have an experience. I want to tell you from my ex-boyfriend what happened. And the love bombing usually comes from an avoidant person. Again, you're going to be putting that test in the quiz into our link, right?
Yep.
Love bombing, because we as women, we watch these romantic movies and we want that in our lives, right? And so when the guy is like, I want to marry you, you're the one, I've never met someone like you before, bringing you expensive flowers, date number two, um, really wanting to be a part of your life, wanting to be a part of your children's life. That's all awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. But when this is just like coming, 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 I'll tell you, I felt it. I was like, is this what dating's like? Is this normal? It's not normal. When a guy, nobody knows that they're in love with you on date 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep.
They just,
But we're gonna go back to we've been romanticizing love bombing behavior
we
since
have been.
we were little girls.
We
When we
have,
were
but it's so
little
dangerous.
cartoons where you're seeing the prince coming after the princess
Yes.
and slaying the dragon and doing this machismo thing, and you are like, oh my god, this is what I want, right? And
It's so dangerous, Tamara. It's so
yeah,
dangerous.
it is so dangerous. That's what I'm saying. Like, we as women, even men, but not men as much, because
It's more women because we're emotional creatures.
women, I would say, but they romanticize these behaviors, and
Yeah.
now the abuser is mimicking them to get his point across, to get his claws into you. Like, the narcissist will utilize this
Yeah,
because he knows this
100%.
is a matter of control and power and control, right? He's going to utilize this to dig his claws into you so that he can continue abusing you. So that's
Now,
why,
let me, that would be a narcissist point of view. But
yeah,
let me give you the avoidant, okay?
okay,
There is the dismissive avoidant, which would be more of a narcissist, and the fearful avoidant. Listen, avoidants want connection. So this love bombing for them, it's the love bombing is because they cleared the table. I'm not saying emotionally, but in their mind, okay, I feel safe. I'm no longer in this marriage. I'm no longer in this relationship. I'm separated, whatever your story is.
mm-hmm,
And they feel safe. They've come to this place where they feel safe. And they're like, I really, really want to meet someone. I really want an emotional connection. And they find someone that they really do like. So I don't want to say that my ex didn't love me eventually and didn't like me and all that. I'm not saying that. But the fearful avoidant will come in genuinely wanting this. It's when, and again, this is, you'll see in the first 3 months, it's when you start to see them kind of pull back a little bit because now it's becoming uncomfortable for them. That right there, my friends, is a red flag. Is when you see someone pulling, pushing, pulling, pushing. That is an emotional roller coaster. That's an emotionally unavailable person, an avoidant that really needs to go get work done. Um,
cat and
so
mouse. That's what he's doing.
exactly. And that's going to be the game for your rest of your lives if you choose to stay with that person. Because
Yeah.
in their minds, it is a scary thing to get too close. They don't want to be vulnerable. They're going to get hurt. And sometimes with the fearful avoidant, it's not really a conscious thing. It is literally the trauma and how they process things. And so they're not consciously trying to hurt you. The dismissive avoidant, the narcissist is going to sit there and they know what they're doing,
Yeah,
you know. And
of
so
course.
that's really, so when you're seeing the love bombing, God, you put it, Disney, oh my God, like stop. Why do all the Disney female characters not have mothers, by the way?
Or if they do, they're usually very mean
Exactly. Have you
or
thought
dead.
about that?
It's one of the two.
And then
Neither.
the man comes in, like you said, knight in shining armor, and they've got to stop doing that. Like, I just want little girls to understand what a relationship actually is, because it's not Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, all that crap. It's
No,
just not. But love bombing, I gotta tell you, that's, I think, the most dangerous one for us women, because men know how to target that emotion and make you feel so special and oh my God, and this and that. And we're in la la land. And this is a huge, huge red flag.
absolutely.
So I'm going to list down what we have. And if you want to add anything else into that, we've talked about separated, not divorced. Um, and, by the way, and a lot of these things that we talked about, I think I should say, is that the lack of emotional availability, a lack of emotional immaturity, I should say. You can tell, I mean, you're a guy. There was some tuxedo guy, I'm going to call him. There was stuff going on that he has not processed, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so a lot of these here, maybe all of them, these red flags, have to do with emotional immaturity.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing who they are and what they want, and really growing a pair of balls, to be perfectly honest, to be able to put you as a priority and stick with you and all that other stuff. So, separated, not divorced. Toxic exes, manipulative children. Surface level conversations. Last minute plans. Last minute, late night, hey baby, what are you doing?
Yeah. Booty call.
No, listen, totally. And listen, women, don't be available to men all the time. Have your life.
Exactly.
You're busy. You're not waiting around for this guy, for the love of God,
Stop
please.
responding to his texts every 2 seconds.
Yes.
Stop
Oh,
acting like.
thank you. Thank you.
Stop.
100%.
Stop it. Go do your thing.
Yeah.
Stop. Don't make him your priority when you're his
God,
option.
go like give yourself a facial, a mask. I don't care what it is. Stop. Stop. Um, disrespect for boundaries. I mean, assert yourself. What do you want? If he's not okay with that, totally fine. Walk. There's another guy. You were talking about consideration, which I think kind of goes with that. Um, I love the fact that you talked about showing off. Trying to look important. Uh, that's a really good red flag that you brought up there.
Also,
Um,
tipping. I forgot about that. Tipping on
tipping.
a date.
Okay.
How he tips the service people. How he treats the
How
service
he
people.
treats the service people is a huge one. Yeah, that
You,
that's something. That's something to look for, because you can get a red or green flag there.
yes, absolutely.
Um, so listen, actually, I'm gonna go back to what our list. Oh my God, I have to like unplug my ears. Separated, not divorced, red flag. The green flag on that though is if you decide to move forward with this person, try things out. They're open with you. They're talking to you about what's going on. They're telling you where they are in the process. They're making you a priority. That's a green flag. Toxic exes, manipulative children. If they're jumping to their beck and call and canceling plans with you, and they're letting their children make their decisions for them, red flag. Green flag in this would be um, telling their toxic exes, I'm sorry, I have plans, not canceling. Telling their children, listen, I love you and you will always be a priority, but you don't get to make my decisions for me. Green flag. Um, inconsistent communication, mixed signals. You know, the red flag on that, is he telling me the truth? Is any of this real? Is he trying to like make himself look more important than what he is, or that he has more than he has? Um, green flag on that. I don't know that there is a green flag, to be perfectly honest. That goes into surface level conversations. That's just a red flag, right? Your only green flag would be there if you ask a deep question and you say, and he says, Listen, I promise to talk about this, but right now I'm not comfortable. All right, that would be like a yellow flag to me.
Yeah.
Because if you go and revisit it and he gives you the same, okay, now I'm in a red flag. You were just avoiding it. You were dismissing it. But
Yep.
if you're noticing surface level conversations and you do ask a deep question, he's willing to answer that, that's a green flag. So we talked about the last minute plans. Listen, every once in a while that's going to happen. But if you see it consistently, that's a red flag. That's a booty call, like you said. Or, you know what, one date ended, or, I have a story on that actually. And I don't want to get too far into it because I want to continue with our list. But my dad was apparently a player. And he would be on one date, and his aunt would call the restaurant and say, "Oh, my dad was not a doctor, by the way. Dr. Gallegos, they are calling you into an emergency surgery, whatever." And then he'd be going on to his next date. And there
Oh,
is like, yeah, and there's his date thinking, "Oh, he's like this important doctor." No. So last minute plans. Some girl probably just dumped him, or he wants a booty call. And so he's like, "Oh, this is why you don't answer your calls late at night from this person. You are too important. You're busy. You're out with your friends doing something."
yep.
So the green flag on this would be that last minute plans. He's like, "Okay, no problem. Hey, can you get together next Friday or Thursday, whatever?" And he tries to make a plan with you after that.
Follow.
Go ahead. That's
Mm-hmm.
that is a green flag there. The disrespect for boundaries, lack of accountability, the controlling, all that. I think that kind of all goes together. And listen, if you set your boundaries and he's good with them, green flag. Totally respect that. You're not going to always agree on things, and that's okay, but you should respect each other's boundaries and values. If he's really trying to push it a little bit and trying to convince you, yellow flag. And if he tries to push a little harder, like you getting into the car as he's driving off, drunk, red flag. No
Yeah.
is no, period.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, those are the ones that I have, and I think that you and I probably agree that if you really get to know your attachment style and get to know the others, these red flags, they're going to be so much easier to spot.
Also, I have another red flag that
Yeah.
I'm thinking. Um, when the person doesn't introduce you to his friends or family
Yes.
after being together for such a long time, they don't introduce you, whether they have kids or not. Introducing you to his parents, introducing you to his best friends. That's a red flag.
It can also be a red flag if he introduces you early on. With
Yes.
my ex, he wanted me to meet his mom like week two.
Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
again, I do think that he had genuine feelings, but that I did not know at the time was a typical fearful avoidant. I want this so badly. I'm going to make sure I connect it. And he's already created his life. And that was like amazing. It was like a Cinderella story until it wasn't.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so if he wants you to meet, if he's talking marriage, um, and,
On date
and
number two, yeah.
yeah,
Red
if I want you to meet my parents, dates 1, 2, 3, even, I don't know. I think that's something that has to wait. That's a huge red flag. And I didn't know this at the time.
Okay.
So again, those are good. And that would go into love bombing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Introducing
think we covered it.
parents, introducing to the parents, I would say early stages in the relationship would go into love bombing because you are creating a scenario for somebody. They're thinking that you want a serious relationship. I mean, for a woman, that equals serious relationship, right? If
100%.
right, that means intimacy. Like once you introduce her, once you see that baby picture album of your boyfriend, right? Once you sit and talk to his mother and you bond with the mother and you have tea with her and you talk about stuff and whatever, it's kind of already like you are not just dating him, you're already dating the package,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
And actually, I love that you just stated that, because if you're dating someone that's separated or divorced, he's gonna come in with a package, and you better hope you like that package, because I'm telling you, Unless
Package
he's
might be red. It could be a red
hundred
flag. Yeah.
percent, 100%. And listen, if that package is red, but he puts you as a priority, defends you, um,
Yep.
great. That's a green flag. But if that package is red and he allows that to control him, please, please, please take it from someone who experienced it. Run. You may love him. I loved him very much,
Yep.
but love is not going to conquer all. We're not, again, a Disney movie.
No. No. And plus, when you are a single woman with no children of your own,
No, even
no.
children. I have children.
Right, right. No, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm
Okay.
going. When you are in a different state in your life where you maybe haven't been married yet, don't have children yet, maybe you're gonna take more time getting to the place where you want to let go, right? But when you're in the state where you've already been married, you already had children, you've already been through all this bullshit, you know how this goes, you can spot it much quicker.
You would
And
hope so.
exactly. Well, most of the time, yes. And you know what's best for you because your best doesn't just involve you. You
No.
have other people to think about as well that are on your end, that are your package,
Yeah,
right? So, if it's just about his package and dealing with his package, it's not something that you want. It's not something that you need to deal with because your package matters just as much as his at that
absolutely.
point.
Absolutely.
So, but
Listen, I
yeah.
thought we brought some really good points to this, and I'm really hoping that people get.
We're gonna start having some guests on our podcast, and I'm looking for
Yes!
more topics. So we're gonna wrap up on the at this
And
portion.
actually, I would love our listeners to message us, on social media. What do you want to hear about? I would
Absolutely,
love to know. We want to talk and listen, just deal with it isn't just about dating and relationships. It's about parenting. It's about life. It's about girlfriends. So yeah, for sure. Definitely let us know what you want to hear.
absolutely. And if you guys need any advice, have any questions, you could always message us directly, and we'll be happy to address them in our next podcast. Have a great one. Thank you.
Bye.
We'll see you next week. Bye.